Okay, good people. Today we're here with Ian Dixon, um, and he's a couch surfer. Now, some of you may not know what that is. He's going to explain it to you. Now, Ian, welcome to the talk today. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Okay. Now, where I'm from, well, you see this black background. This is like some studio stuff, but to my right, there's like a cloudy situation going on outside, and I'm in the snow here in Sioux Falls. Now, you have sunshine and everything coming through the windows. Where are you at, sir?
I'm in Oakland, California.
Oakland. And what's the current temperature right now?
Hmm. Right now,
And you can guess. You don't have to be exact.
I don't know, in the 50s probably.
Oh, now you came from the cold area. Is that cold to you? 50s?
No.
Not cold. So you probably could walk out in your t-shirt right now and be okay.
Yeah,
Cool. And how do you like it out there, man?
I love it out here. I'm really glad that I came out here.
Cool. And how long you been there in Oakland?
I've been here since September 19th.
Okay. So a few months. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about this. The subject today is travel, and you do this thing called couch surfing. And
Yeah,
what is that?
well, yeah, I did a little bit of couch surfing when I started traveling again recently. Um, couch surfing to me is just the act of staying with other people. There is a website called couchsurfing.net. I think it's .net,
Yeah.
where you can actually meet up with, like, you can schedule to meet strangers that you can stay at their homes that are opening like a spare room for you out of the kindness of their heart.
Hmm.
It's a lot more popular in Europe and a lot harder to do in the United States, I think. But
Yeah.
pretty much I just kind of asked everybody that I knew, um, who they knew, where I was going, and made a list, and then I stayed with the people on that list that said I could stay with them. And that's kind of what couchsurfing is to me.
Now that's kind of interesting. So it sounds like you never used the site. You just kind of did it. You just kind of maybe network your own self.
I used the site a little bit. Most of it was networking myself. Yep.
Okay. Now, when I hear couch surfing, it sounds like a safety issue. And the reason why is because if let's say you're a female and
Yeah.
you're standing on a couch and the guy happens to be a male and there's no one else there,
Right.
could
Yeah.
could it get sketchy?
It can get sketchy. It, if you're using the website, it can get sketchy, but honestly, this is more popular in Europe because a lot of those, I mean, uh, different cultures, women have different concerns. I'm sure women in Europe are also concerned to a degree,
Mhm.
but it seems to just be more socially acceptable in Europe. And I can't really speak as to why, other than that's what I've heard. The site is based in Europe, and that's
Okay.
where most of the activity is done. In the United States, most of the time, I would say a lot of the people that I've surfed with say that they mostly have foreigners. So these are people that have traveled abroad from the United States, used couch surfing, and then they want to pay it forward, typically.
Okay.
So when people from Europe are coming here, they use that. And like I hear it all the time from women that they would be concerned about safety. It's
Mhm.
kind of hard to travel in a group. So if there are female couch surfers, I mean they must just deal with it. They must just learn along the way what the red flags are.
Now it's funny you say this because I was listening to a traveling show today. It's kind of like Blab. Blab is this new thing, and I'm sure you've heard of it. But anyways, this guy from Ireland had opened up his couch to this female, and come to find out that female now is his wife because they later on went to Italy. They went to different places. They started traveling together because she was just this single female that was traveling by herself, right? And
Yeah,
and and now the equivalent of that kinda is this Airbnb. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of Airbnb. I've used Airbnb.
Oh,
Not
you
very
have.
often, but I've used it once. Yeah.
Now how does that work?
Airbnb is when Airbnb is kind of like the sharing economy's answer to disrupting hotels, kind of a little bit.
Hmm.
So if you have a spare room, if you have a whole house, if you have a property, you can throw it on Airbnb and people can stay there for days at a time.
Mhm.
And I think what they like to do to skate within the rules or the gray area that this is in right now is they make it so it's under 30 days, and that makes it so it's not considered like a rental, and people don't get like tenant rights to the location.
Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha,
Because
gotcha.
if you stay at a location for longer than 30 days, I think in a lot of jurisdictions in the United States, I think then it's considered like that the tenant has rights now. They can't be evicted and without an official process and whatnot.
You know, it's funny. Like it's like we're turning into this generation now of trust, right? Like even with Uber, um,
Or the United States is catching up on that.
that could be it. That could be it. Because because let's talk a little bit about this too, and we can get back into couch surfing here in a second. But you're from Sioux Falls,
Yeah.
right here in South Dakota, and they actually have Airbnb here too. I didn't even know it. I just looked on the site and it was here.
Yep.
Why did you leave from Sioux Falls going to San Francisco? Well,
Um,
Oakland.
well, I mean, I just call it the Bay Area because I don't even work in Oakland. I kind of just go all over. But yeah, I moved out to this area because um, I wanted to continue working in tech, and when I was running my Bitcoin mining company, it was simple to work in tech. I owned my own tech company,
Hmm.
but when I decided to stop doing that, I really started to appreciate the opportunities in tech that I heard people over the internet talking about. So I tried Minneapolis first for a little bit, couch surfing, and then I trekked out to the Bay Area, and I got here and I didn't want to leave.
You know, it's so funny. I used to think I was this weird guy because I always wanted to travel. I never was a fan of corporate America, and I just thought it felt right. And even at the age I am at now, I'm still has this bug to travel because for me, traveling is the best education. Now, you haven't traveled outside of the United States yet, but where have you been? I know you say you went to Minnesota, but where else have you been?
Growing up, I traveled all the time. My parents were separated, and my dad lived on the other side of the country. He would move around a bit, but
Mhm.
he was typically just really far away from South Dakota. So, um, from a little bit after I was born, I actually was in California to like age 5 or so.
Yeah.
I actually went to daycare in San Francisco, and um, I've been to Florida, I've been to Colorado. I've just been kind of everywhere. I've lived in Las Vegas for a few months. I've kind of been all over.
You know, Ian, it's funny too that there's this mindset, and according to, I guess you can say, conservative America, that you're supposed to get a house, you know, the white picket fence, stay there 20 years, raise a family, and get to know your neighbors.
Right.
And I never, like, I don't even like talking to my neighbors. Not that I'm like this antisocial dude, but I just can't buy into that. Let me stay in one place for 20 years. I gotta
Right.
freaking go somewhere. I gotta. So, uh, if you were to go anywhere overseas, where's the first place you want to go?
Somewhere in Asia. Um, South Korea would be cool. Taiwan is on my list. I'd actually like. I mean, I can't. I probably couldn't work from North Korea, but I'd like to go there because it'd be neat to kind of see the perspective difference. And I mean, they have it opened up to where people can go there.
You know, it's so funny, man. I met this guy at a bar who actually happened to be a Harlem Globetrotter, who
Nice.
was one of the lucky ones who went to North Korea.
Oh,
And one of the things he told me was, "It's not like you see." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Is it like this party place that's under wraps?" He said, "Well, we do believe it was a little rehearsed because when we were on the interstate and they were traveling, they were the only cars. There were no cars. Like none, no cars. But he said, they did get to experience some things, and it's not like any place you would go in Asia, like Hong Kong or anything like that. But it definitely wasn't this dark thing that everyone says it is. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of travel, because a lot of times, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't travel is this fear thing they have in their head. They're
Yeah.
gonna get kidnapped, duct tape put in the trunk. The cartel's gonna hold them for ransom or whatever. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's not one of your fears, is it?
Well, I don't know what would happen if I went to North Korea, but I would. uh, yeah, I don't know what would happen if I went to North Korea. But I couldn't list another country that I'd really have too many concerns about. I mean, I I'm not stupid. Like I can assess risks, so like I understand certain scenarios are riskier than others. But
Yeah.
I feel like I would put myself in positions where I had an amount of control that I'd be comfortable with. So
Yeah.
yeah,
My biggest thing with traveling is you don't want to walk around looking like the tourist. Like you definitely want to be walking around with your book bag and your atlas, or
yeah.
you're looking around like,
But
like you're
that
lost.
but that's a mindset. I think that's a mindset. I think people put themselves in that mindset when they call it vacation instead of travel. They go with this list of, okay, today we're gonna do this and we're gonna travel to. I mean, like they have a tourist mindset, and like when I came to San Francisco. And when I chose to live in Oakland, and when I go out to San Mateo, I don't have like a tourist mindset. I just
Really?
kind of explore and do things. Like all the people I've met out here, I went to random things and did things. I didn't like pull out a map and say I need to go to this tourist location, this one and this one.
Hmm. And coming from Sioux Falls, I've lived other places, but here it seems like people are more into family. Like not everywhere else in the world, people don't care about family, but here it's
Yeah,
like you don't go so far with your family, and your
yeah,
family's when they see you leave, it's like they're gonna see you for the last time. Like, please be careful, don't
right.
get be safe. They're always talking about safety, as
Yeah,
if like go out there and have a blast, just go have fun,
yeah,
something whatever.
yeah. I was actually reading something about how many like young adults between the age of X and Y
Hmm.
still live within, I think, like 10 miles or 100 miles of their parents.
Yeah.
And that's whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I think the statistics are different in small towns than they are in maybe more metro progressive areas.
Hmm.
And I would say that in those areas that like the bigger ones, I would say people probably move a lot more, but in the smaller ones, it's much more family rich, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But yeah,
Well, it's not that it's anything wrong with that, but there's a slight problem, I think. I
yeah,
think a 12-year-old kid in New York is more culturally diverse than a 50-year-old
yeah,
in a small town America.
yeah. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. It's kind of interesting. So like speaking of Sioux Falls specifically,
Hmm.
um, there's a lot of sense. I think from people my age, I can say that there's a lot of sense where you want to help your community grow bigger and fix every community has something wrong with it. You want to fix the things wrong with your community,
Hmm.
and at the same time there's like a hopelessness that they won't have the opportunities that they would have if they went somewhere bigger that already has some of those specific problems that are ailing them solved. I talked about it a lot with my friends when I was still in Sioux Falls. uh, I've met plenty of people that are from small towns. I hear similar things, and some people take the path of trying to fix those things, I guess. That's how I would describe it.
But a lot of people come back. Like I always see, like young adults with like sleeves, tattoos,
Yep.
but they usually go away, get the tattoos, then they come back. Like
Yeah.
maybe they go to Minnesota or Colorado and try it out and say, that was enough of the fast life. Now I want to come and settle down. So they end up coming back because
Yes.
there's one rule I learned because I wanted to live in Nicaragua, been there, Bangkok, been there, Hong Kong, and I thought, oh, it'd be cool to live there. But what I find out is that there is no perfect place.
Yep.
You know, so it's basically what you make it. But that doesn't mean that you can't get a base and travel and just keep coming back.
Yeah. A
You
lot
know,
of people I've met out here, a lot of people I've met out here have been out here longer than me, and some of them are already talking about going back where they're from. I think, I think people, I've observed some people out here that will come out here and see some sort of opportunity, and then once they've made it, then they just go wherever they want at that point, whatever that means. They want to raise a family in a place that a little more family orientated. They'll go there, or they'll go back where they're from, or whatever.
you know, it's something interesting that the Israelis do. And I think that it would be great to do this in the U.S. Like in Israel, you have to be in the military, whether male or female.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah,
But right after they get out of the military, usually about 90% do this one thing. They travel. They go to India, they go to Costa Rica, they go to Brazil, they go all over, and they travel right after the military. Then they start their careers. But what I think that happens is, it's like that totally puts hair on your chest if you're a man, or or I don't know what
I
it
get what
does
you're
for
saying.
a woman, but I'm just saying that it gets you out of that comfort zone right away, and
Yeah,
and it opens your mind up so much that now when you tackle life, it's like you got a different perspective on it.
yeah, totally culturally different. It's yeah. I think most parents would not encourage their kids in America to go. Well, maybe they would. I don't know.
Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat. That's a really tough one to gauge. Yeah, I don't know what most of them would do. Um, I just see a lot of parents being like really concerned, being like, "Oh, you got to be careful. I don't want you to get kidnapped," and all the fear stuff about traveling. And I mean, I think it's because they didn't travel.
But what that creates though are like, and forgive the term, but mama's boys, oh, Billy fell, let me put a band-aid on it. You learn to be timid in life, right? And life is not about being timid. You're already living. So if this was an acting role, action has already been hit by the director. Like we're ready,
Right.
we're in it now.
Yeah.
So you
Life
might as
is,
well just go.
yeah. Yeah, there's no substitute for life experience. That's why that's why it's so hard to get a job right out of college.
Hmm.
Employers want you to, have a 4-year degree, and then they also want you to have 4 years on the job experience, and it's
Experience.
just like, well, yeah. So I guess in some other countries it seems like they get the education piece, and they get the world experience piece, and yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So now you have the Bay Area experience, and you were here in Sioux Falls not so long ago. Is it different over there? Like, do you see? Is it more open-mindedness there, or is it more open-minded people here in Sioux Falls?
Uh, it's more open-minded here, but to be fair about that, it's just a more progressive place. So, like, I would just point that out to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, One of the first things that I noticed is being black, I could actually talk about racial issues without just being considered, oh, he's not only the black guy, he's the angry black guy.
Yeah. But why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of the environment?
It's definitely the culture out here. I mean, I was doing some research on it, and I think in 2011, South Dakota, the census said that there were around 10,000 people in the state that identified as black. That's what I read.
Yeah.
And, that's not a lot out here. The statistics are much higher. There's much more people out here.
Yeah.
I think 20% of them or something out here were Asian at one point. So it's more diverse. There's more culture out here. People not only begin the conversation about diversity, but there are actual diverse people here to make it a conversation that can get somewhere. Because the conversation about diversity doesn't get anywhere when a bunch of white people talk about other races, because
Oh.
that's not where it gets. You
Oh.
include the race that you're talking about actively in the discussion, and you refer to them. Like, it's really just you field them questions.
And getting back to the example of the 12-year-old kid who's exposed to different cultures. So when they see Jews walking in their traditional dress, and Muslims walking with turbans and things like this, when they go to the airport or when they go places, they're not afraid really because they're like, look,
Yeah.
that's Musa from down the street, or when they hear Spanish music playing in their ears. So when they're at a club and they hear salsa music, they're not like, what kind of strange music is that?
Yeah.
They're surrounded by it. Or if a person's in a country like, for instance, Blab, Morocco, you go in that Blab, the guys can switch it from 3 different languages. They can go into Arabic, they can go into French, and they can go into English. So it's just like a bilingual room, right? But in Morocco, the cultures are immersed and everybody's together and blah blah blah. So to me, that's diversity. When you said it, when they're actively engaged and see people, so they're not coming up with perceptions, which are totally wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think like the biggest problem in smaller communities that just aren't as diverse, and there is diversity in Sioux Falls. It seems to be all pocketed and siloed though, from what I experienced. When whatever happens, that there's a bunch of whatever happens somewhere in the world where there's a bunch of immigrants that come to Sioux Falls. They're all housed in the same building, in the same location, right? Like they're not. It never felt to me like they had the opportunity to be active members of the community. It's like a siloed community within the community, but out here, it's right in front of you. It's all around you. It's right in front of you. Diversity is in your face, and you absolutely have to deal with it. You don't have to go far to involve somebody that is diverse in a conversation. So instead of it being just a bunch of one race, like even if it's a bunch of black people that are wondering questions about Muslims, they're not sitting there in a room just wondering. They have the opportunity to include the Muslims in the conversation.
Yes.
So it's like an active. That was a bad example, but you get my point.
I
It's
get
an
it.
active conversation, yeah.
And I just want to say too that this is not a bad Sioux Falls fest, or anything like this. This is just just use an example because diversity is basically education, and a lot of the times the reason why we won't travel is because many like-minded people have sat in a room and talked about the fears of a place, and none of them have never been to that place. But somehow they have the big bad wolf is going to get us when we get there kind of thing. This is why they go to resorts.
Because because they're American. Like I like all the people that I know that say, "Oh, I went to Jamaica. It was awesome." And I'm like, "Let me guess, you stayed at the American hotel."
So you sit around a bar and you say, "Oh, where you from?" "Oh, I'm from Minnesota." "Oh, where you from?" "Oh, I'm from Wisconsin." "Oh, I got it." We're in Jamaica, but we're surrounded by a wall.
Yes.
I got a funny story about that. So I was on a cruise ship. Never did the cruise before. So we did an excursion to go see Bob Marley's house. So I'm like, cool. And it was so funny because on this excursion, we're riding around this freaking red, yellow, and green bus. It totally looked like a pot bus. And my wife and I, my wife is Caucasian, the majority of people that were on this thing were like 70-year-old white people. Were the other people that were on the bus. And look, we passed Sandals Resort. Sandals is a well-known resort. We pass it because it's on the road going to his house, and there's like barbed wire, this concrete wall, and I'm like, there's people in there that are saying they're in Jamaica, and we're passing the resort on the outside, and nobody's attacking us with AK-47s or grenades or anything. So it's like it's safe out here. But it just put it in perspective that you can go outside of those walls and have fun and get to know the people, But no, I thought about that. So, so probably you can't go to North Korea. So let's.
No, you can go to North Korea. It's open to go there. They accept a small amount of people that fill out an application every year.
So really, would you fill out an application to go?
I'm a little concerned, but I would go if the timing was right. I'm a little concerned about actually going there though.
Yeah, because if I was North Korean, I would look at you and say, you know what, this is an intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Probably in the tech world. He's probably an undercover CIA agent.
I don't know what they would think, but I would think that they would Google me and like that they would know that know something.
Yeah, you write. He has a blog. No.
Right.
Now I tell you an interesting place I would love to go, and I actually went there kinda in the military. Was Cuba, but we were on the Guantanamo Bay side. I think that would be freaking awesome to go
Cuba
to
would
Cuba.
be awesome. It would be like stepping in a time machine.
Yeah, with all the old cars and everything. And I gotta, from what I hear, that you can fly to Canada and go to Cuba. And when I was in Nicaragua, and this, I'm not spreading illegal stuff here, but if you go, I'm in Nicaragua, I had a guy said, hey, we can get you to Cuba and they won't stamp your passport. So
Well, you can get to Cuba now, so everything's good now.
well, it still said, I looked the other day, it still said that you have to go for educational purposes.
Yeah, you want to educate yourself on the history.
Well, yeah. So I have a microphone, I can take with me and
Yeah,
a camera and say, "Hey, I'm a blogger," but I gotta go. I mean, that's the kind of
yeah,
that's what I when people say you went on vacation, that's vacation to me.
yes.
You know. So Ian, we're gonna wrap this up here pretty soon. So if you can't go to the North Korea, say you're denied, where's the second place you want to go?
See, my goal, what I've been saving international travel for is um, whatever I can find to be the most extreme culture shock.
Oh,
So,
I like that. I like
so
that.
definitely not Europe. I mean, that's not going to be a culture shock compared to, I don't know, somewhere in China is probably it, because I don't know Mandarin or Cantonese.
Yeah.
So I'd be equally as, well, I'd probably be less lost in Hong Kong, I suppose, because that's kind of Americanized.
Yeah,
But
Hong Kong, I think, has the second biggest gay population. It's very diverse. It's like, and it was ruled by the
British,
British at once.
yeah, it was a British colony, so they're super westernized, kind of.
Yeah, but China's trying to take it over now, so it's a fight. China would be cool. Like if you take a train and go outside of Hong Kong, I don't know the first city, but the second city you'll come into in the southern area is called Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Totally different than Hong Kong, but and they're all Westerners that live there, but it'll be a culture shock.
Oh, for sure. And that's
Yeah,
kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, I just want to experience that. So as long as I can work from the country, have internet access, which I mean, I'd have internet access in China. I don't, from a first person perspective, I don't know what that's going to be like. So I might settle for something like Taiwan or South Korea.
yeah. I got a buddy that's in South Korea now. Actually, he's like this language guy. I don't know. I mean, the only thing about the web is I know you can't get on Facebook and YouTube. I think it's YouTube also in China. Hong
Yeah,
Kong you can, but it's that whole not piracy. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
Great Firewall of China.
yeah, yeah. But it'd be cool. I think it'd be a great place.
Yeah.
Now, would you couch surf there?
No, I don't think it. I don't think. Oh, you mean Couchsurfing on the website, right? Or do you
Yeah,
just
on the
mean?
website.
Okay, no, I wouldn't try to use the website probably.
He's
Um,
like, no, 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 no.
no. Yeah, I found a much better experience when the people I was staying with were friends directly, or friends, or friends of family.
Yeah.
Uh, that was the best experience I had. So if I went to another country, like I know a couple people, like I know a girl that teaches English in Taiwan,
Mhm.
and I have a friend that knows some people that live in China. So I would just try to go through that network and
Okay. Okay. Okay.
get somebody to say I could stay with them. But I mean, if that didn't work, honestly, from what I can tell, living in China for an extended period of time would be really cheap. Like my friend went there.
Okay.
My friend went there and he said he was staying in some maybe some iffy hotels that cost like $6 a day.
In China?
Yeah,
Yeah. When he says iffy, he's right on iffy.
yeah, I know.
We're in hotels where my feet was probably hanging over the bed about maybe that much. Cats rolling through the hall. Your toilet is in the shower. So if you want to just go ahead and multitask and get everything done at one time, you definitely have that option. Uh, that's culture shock.
Yeah,
So if you want that, you definitely can have that experience. I can't. do that no more. Yeah.
Well, after living on a bus for a couple of weeks, I'm just like,
Yeah. Tell us about it a little bit before I let you go, because that was a pretty interesting thing. You lived on a bus.
so when I was in Minneapolis, I met a number of people. One of them decided to buy a city bus on auction. He got a 39-foot city bus like that would go to a bus stop
Yeah.
for $2,500. And they tore out all the seats and put couches and beds in it. There was even a bunk bed in it.
Yeah.
And they filled it with gas and they drove it out to the Bay Area so they wouldn't have to pay rent. And to be honest with you, I mean, like that's cheaper than rent every month. So, like, or the bus itself plus the cost of coming out here is probably rent every month for a lot of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And when he came out here, about a month later, me and another friend from Minneapolis decided to come out here, and I just lived on the bus for 2 weeks.
And how much was your pay to do that?
Well, he just let me do it for free.
See, I like this new way of thinking because, everybody's not all into the glitz and the glamour, because like right now in the Bay Area, I don't know, you living in a house or is that an apartment? What is that?
This is an apartment.
Okay. Now, do you have a roommate or are you by yourself?
I have 2 roommates that I sublet to.
2. Oh, okay. Now, are you renting that house?
Yeah, I don't own it.
Okay. So what I mean by that is, do you is that expensive compared to like say Sioux Falls?
Yeah, our rent is probably 3 times as much as whatever like the average mortgage in South Dakota. It's probably 3 times more expensive, and that's no exaggeration.
Holy crap! Is it big? How many bedrooms is it?
3 bedrooms.
Wow.
It has an upstairs.
Okay. Well, the area that you're sitting in looks pretty big.
Yeah, this is the downstairs. It's pretty big.
Oh yeah, that's not a small place. Okay. So upstairs is where the bedrooms are.
Yep.
Okay. And your roommates, they're cool? You get along with them?
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah. It seemed like you kind of hesitated with the yeah a little bit. It was a little. No. I always say, like, when people live with each other, it always turns into, like, the real world. Like those experiences that MTV would have with people. Because everybody has their way of doing things,
Yeah. Well, one of them kind of sticks to himself, and he just does his job, and I don't really see him very often. And the other is a computer programmer, so that's pretty cool because I'm learning programming, and
yeah,
so that's cool.
And you found him when you came there?
Yep.
Wow, good stuff, man.
I just went on Craigslist and looked for roommates, and
see, that's another thing.
They both had checkbooks on the spot, and I was like, "You guys are cool. Let's do this."
Cool. So let me ask you this question, Ian. This will be the last question. So in 5 years, where do you see yourself?
I have no idea.
Are you one of those guys that like, look, I live in the now, I don't worry about that kind of thing? Or
I plan for the future, but where I'm located doesn't that's not going to impact if I'm going to be successful or not. So like I have some general ideas on what I might be doing. Where I might be doing it, I don't know. I could make like a short list of countries and states that I might be in.
But you kind of it seems like you like the jobs that kind of let you be flexible with technology and you could just work anywhere.
Yeah, if I don't find employment that would let me do that, then I'll just create my own opportunity and do that.
Smart. And there's enough companies now, startups and all like that probably would let you do that.
Yeah, so you have a lot of flexibility if you work in tech, I think, if you work in the right positions in tech.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Ian, thank you for joining us. I'm probably going to wrap to you a little bit more after the interview here, but it was nice talking to you, and it was lovely listening to your traveling stories. It's interesting how everybody has a different perspective on travel, So,
yeah.
But yeah, my man, thank you, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon sometime.
For sure. Yeah, thanks.
Alrighty.